Let me tell you a story. My story. It's not one of those fairy tales where everything magically works out in the end. It's messy, it's real, and it's mine. My name's Eli, and if you've got 10 minutes, I'll tell you how I went from a scrawny, sarcastic teenager to the man I am today. Spoiler alert, it wasn't pretty, but it was worth it. I was 15 when life decided to drop a piano on my head. Not literally, though, that would have been less painful. My mom got sick, like really sick. Pneumonia, the doctor said. She needed rest, but rest wasn't exactly in our budget. See, my dad had bailed when I was a kid, and mom had been holding things together with duct tape and sheer willpower ever since. She worked double shifts at the diner, serving greasy burgers to truckers who never tipped enough. And then, just like that, she couldn't work at all. So, what did I do? What any self-respecting teenager would do. I dropped out of school and became the Swiss Army knife of odd jobs. Mowing lawns, washing cars, walking dogs, you name it, I did it. And let me tell you, walking dogs when you're allergic to them is a special kind of torture. I'd come home sneezing, covered in fur, and mom would say, Eli, you're a good boy. And I'd laugh and say, yeah, well, someone's got to keep the circus running. But here's the thing about carrying the weight of the world. It's heavy, like really heavy. And no matter how many jokes I cracked about how I was basically a superhero or how I could fold laundry with my eyes closed, okay, that one was a lie, I could feel the pressure building. One night, I came home to find mom crying at the kitchen table. The bills had piled up and we were facing eviction. I sat down next to her, took her hand, and said, hey, remember that time I tried to cook spaghetti and almost burned the house down? We survived that. We'll survive this too. She laughed, and for a second, it felt like maybe everything would be okay. But life doesn't care about your plans. A few weeks later, mom's condition got worse. I came home from work one night and she was barely conscious. I called 911 and they rushed her to the hospital. Sitting in that waiting room, I felt like the walls were closing in. I'd always been the funny guy, the one who could laugh through anything. But that night I couldn't laugh. I couldn't even breathe. I remember thinking, this is it. This is where I break. And I did. I cried like a baby, right there in that stupid plastic chair. I cried for mom, for myself, for the life we'd been fighting so hard to keep. Mom pulled through, but something in me had shifted. I realized I couldn't just keep surviving. I had to start living. So I went back to school. I worked harder than ever, but this time I didn't forget to laugh. I'd tell my classmates, I've been through so much. I'm basically a superhero. Call me the boy who carried the sky. And you know what? They laughed. They listened. And for the first time, I felt like maybe I wasn't alone. Fast forward a few years, and there I was, standing on a stage as the valedictorian of my graduating class. I looked out at the crowd, my mom sitting in the front row, her eyes shining with pride. I took a deep breath and said, life is tough, but so are we. We've all carried our own versions of the sky, and sometimes it feels like it's going to crush us. But if you can find a way to laugh, to keep going, you'll realize that the sky isn't a burden. It's a canvas. And you, my friends, are the artists. The crowd erupted in applause. But I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at mom. And in that moment, I knew that every hardship, every tear, every laugh had shaped me into the man I am today. So yeah, life dropped a piano on my head. But you know what? I learned to play it. And now I'm making music. Before I wrap this up, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to my story, for letting me share the messy, painful, and sometimes funny moments that made me who I am. Life isn't perfect, and neither am I, but stories like mine, and maybe like yours, remind us that we're not alone. So, wherever you are, whatever you're carrying, just know this. You're stronger than you think. And hey, if you ever need a laugh, I've got plenty of bad jokes to go around. Thanks for listening.